Life has an unrelenting way of reminding us that people come and go, often without warning or explanation. We invest our hearts, build deep connections, and entwine our emotions with these relationships, believing they'll last forever. But what happens when those bonds unravel? How do you bear the weight of heartbreak when someone you cherished drifts away? Or worse, when you realize they never truly cared in the same way? The ache of such moments can feel unbearable, leaving you searching for a way to let go without losing the essence of who you are. Can you truly release the grip of emotional pain and detach without leaving pieces of yourself behind? Stoicism, particularly the profound teachings of Marcus Aurelius, offers a timeless guide to navigating the stormy seas of our emotions. The Stoics were not dismissive of human feelings. They understood them deeply. But their genius lay in learning to temper these emotions, cultivating a sense of inner balance that anchors us in life's most turbulent moments. Emotional detachment, in the Stoic sense, isn't about shutting off your heart or becoming indifferent. It's about reclaiming your peace, finding the strength to respond to life's challenges with clarity and grace. In this discussion, I'll share 5 enduring Stoic principles inspired by Marcus Aurelius, designed to help you emotionally detach from someone without losing yourself. These principles aren't just lofty ideals. They are practical tools to reshape the way you connect with yourself and those around you, empowering you to live with greater freedom and purpose. Rule 1. Embrace the fleeting nature of life. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that what we hear is merely an opinion, not an irrefutable fact, and what we see is just a perspective, not the ultimate truth. In the realm of emotional attachments, we often cling desperately to our personal interpretations of others, weaving stories about their role and importance in our lives. But the unvarnished truth is this: all relationships are impermanent. One day you may feel inseparably close. The next, they may drift away, whether due to distance, loss, or the quiet erosion of intimacy over time. It's a reality that can feel devastating, but it lies at the heart of the Stoics' wisdom. To live freely, we must accept life's transient nature. By recognizing that no connection is eternal, we learn to cherish the present, to truly value the moments we have without suffocating them with expectation. Picture yourself at the beach, scooping up a handful of sand. The harder you press to hold it in place, the faster it slips through your fingers. Life, relationships, and love are much the same. Instead of grasping tightly, let go. Hold gently. Accepting this impermanence is not a loss, but a liberation, allowing you to meet each moment with clarity, gratitude, and peace. The tighter you cling, the faster it slips away. An undeniable truth of life. The more desperately we try to grasp someone or something, the more swiftly it seems to elude our grip, leaving us feeling powerless. I remember a friendship that spanned more than a decade. We shared everything: our dreams, our fears, and countless late-night conversations that seemed to weave our lives together. I believed that bond was unbreakable. But as the years passed, something shifted. The connection we once cherished began to fade, no matter how much I tried to hold it together. My efforts to preserve that relationship became a heavy weight, tethering me to someone who no longer felt the same way. It was a painful realization, but also a necessary one. Not every bond is meant to last forever. Only when I accepted that our friendship had run its course was I able to let go of the emotional burden I had been carrying. Marcus Aurelius teaches us the same lesson with profound simplicity. Acknowledge the inevitability of endings and you'll find that their sting lessens. By embracing the impermanence of relationships, we free ourselves from the anguish of clinging and open the door to peace and renewal. Rule 2. Focus on what you can control. One of the most profound teachings of Stoicism, and a transformative mindset to adopt, is the ability to distinguish between what lies within your control and what does not. This simple yet powerful insight is crucial when it comes to emotionally detaching from someone. Much of the pain we endure in relationships stems from our attempts to control things that are fundamentally beyond our reach. Marcus Aurelius, in his timeless meditations, repeatedly urges us to center our energy on what we can influence: our thoughts, our actions, and our responses. Everything else, how others behave, the outcomes of events, and even the passage of time, exists outside the realm of our control. The harder we try to grasp at these uncontrollable elements, the deeper our suffering becomes. Emotional detachment, therefore, is not an act of cold separation. It's a practice of releasing the tight grip on outcomes you cannot dictate. When you're deeply attached to someone, a partner, a close friend, or a family member, it's natural to yearn for influence over how they feel about you, or how the relationship unfolds. But this yearning often leads to frustration, disappointment, and heartache. By shifting your focus inward, towards your own thoughts and choices, you reclaim your power. Letting go of the need to control external outcomes isn't giving up. It's setting yourself free. When you embrace this perspective, you'll find that peace replaces anxiety, and clarity takes the place of confusion. The freedom to focus on what truly matters, your actions, your growth, and your well-being, is the key to detaching with grace and serenity. You long for them to care as deeply for you as you care for them. It's a natural desire, but the truth is both sobering and liberating. Their emotions are beyond your control. No amount of effort can force someone to love you, value you, or treat you with the kindness you deserve. The only true power you hold lies in how you choose to respond to their behavior. Think back to a time when you tried to influence someone's feelings or actions. Maybe you bent over backward to win someone's affection, or exhausted yourself proving your worth to a friend who refused to see it. How did that leave you feeling? Likely drained, anxious, and disheartened, chasing something that was never within your power to dictate. I've been there too. I was in a relationship where I felt like the entire foundation rested on my shoulders. I planned thoughtful dates, sent heartfelt messages, and poured my energy into being present and attentive. But no matter what I did, it always felt like I was running a race I could never win. They kept pulling away and I kept pushing harder, desperate to bridge the growing gap. It became a relentless cycle of anxiety, each effort to fix things leaving me more empty than before. The truth is, trying to control someone else's feelings is like chasing the wind. It's futile and leaves you exhausted. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that peace comes when we let go of what is outside our influence and focus on what is within: our choices, our reactions, and our own well-being. By releasing this need to control, you liberate yourself from a battle you were never meant to fight. When I began embracing the Stoic principle of focusing solely on what I could control, my actions, my mindset, and my sense of self-worth, I felt a profound shift within me. The constant weight of anxiety started to lift as I realized a simple truth. I couldn't force others to love me more, treat me better, or value me in the way I deserved. The only thing I had power over was how I chose to respond. With that understanding, I made the deliberate choice to let go, to detach emotionally. The sense of relief I experienced was transformative, like stepping out of a storm into calm, open skies. One of the most liberating decisions you can make is to claim emotional independence. This means understanding at your core that your happiness, your peace, and your emotional stability are yours to nurture. They don't belong in the hands of someone else. When you surrender that power, when you let someone else dictate your emotional well-being, you become a prisoner of their actions, moods, and whims. Imagine being in a friendship where you constantly feel invisible, where your needs and feelings are an afterthought. Every time you strive for acknowledgement, you're met with indifference. That feeling of being overlooked eats away at your confidence, leaving you drained and questioning your worth. By choosing emotional independence, you free yourself from this exhausting cycle. You reclaim your power and remind yourself that your value is not defined by how others treat you, but by how you treat yourself. Your friend isn't making time for you like they once did, leaving you feeling invisible and unimportant. The sting of being overlooked can cut deep, making you question what you might have done wrong, or why they've created distance. These thoughts are painful, but they reveal a powerful truth. Their actions are outside your control. What lies firmly within your grasp is your choice, how you respond to this situation. Ask yourself, do you want to pour your energy into chasing the attention of someone who doesn't value you? Or would you rather direct that energy toward relationships and pursuits that genuinely fulfill you? When you shift your focus to what you can control, your own emotional well-being, you begin to reclaim your strength. You start to realize that your worth isn't tied to someone else's approval or the time they give you. Instead, you create a foundation of self-worth that is independent and resilient. I've been there myself, caught in friendships where I allowed another person's behavior to define how I saw myself. When they were distant or indifferent, I felt like I wasn't enough. But on the days they were warm and attentive, I felt validated and worthy. It was an exhausting emotional roller coaster, one I could only step off by choosing to anchor my value in myself, rather than in someone else's inconsistent actions. By letting go of the need for external validation, you take the first step toward emotional freedom. You stop waiting for someone else to decide your worth, and you claim it for yourself. This is the heart of emotional independence, and it's where true strength begins. When I began to embrace Stoic principles, I made a conscious decision to stop tethering my self-worth to the actions or opinions of others. Instead, I turned my attention inward, prioritizing the cultivation of my own emotional well-being, regardless of how others chose to behave. This shift didn't mean I stopped caring. It meant I learned how to shield my inner peace from the turbulence of external events. Emotional detachment, in its truest form, isn't about apathy or withdrawal. It's about achieving a deep sense of acceptance. Acceptance that life and people are unpredictable, and that our desire to control every outcome is an illusion. Take, for instance, the pain of a breakup. The sense of loss can feel overwhelming, and it's natural for your mind to spiral into a maze of what-ifs. What if I had done things differently? Why did this happen to us? These thoughts, while deeply human, are rooted in the futile hope of rewriting the past or manipulating a future that's already out of your hands. The Stoics teach us to confront reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. This means acknowledging the heartbreak without letting it consume you. It means allowing yourself to feel the pain, but not letting it dictate your sense of worth or direction. by releasing the need to control what has already happened, you open the door to healing and to building a future where your peace is no longer dependent on circumstances beyond your reach. Rather than being consumed by endless what-ifs and speculating about how things might have been different, the Stoic approach calls us to confront reality as it is. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that what we perceive as obstacles can, in fact, become opportunities for growth. The challenges we face are not roadblocks meant to halt our progress. They are stepping stones that push us toward resilience and self-improvement. By accepting what lies beyond our control, we free ourselves from the exhausting cycle of trying to change the unchangeable, allowing us to channel our energy into what truly matters, moving forward. I remember one of the most heart-wrenching moments in my life, the sudden and unexpected end of a relationship I had believed was unshakable. In the aftermath, I was consumed by a need to understand, replaying every moment and wondering what I could have done differently. It was a tormenting cycle of second-guessing and self-blame. But over time, I realized that the peace I craved wouldn't come from unraveling the past or deciphering someone else's choices. True peace could only be found by accepting the situation as it was, not as I wanted it to be. I couldn't rewrite the past or control how another person felt, but I had the power to choose my response to the pain. Instead of clinging to what was lost, I made the conscious choice to embrace the present. That act of acceptance didn't erase the hurt, but it brought a quiet strength, a realization that I could move forward, unburdened by the weight of things I couldn't change. It's in that acceptance that true resilience begins, turning heartbreak into a source of inner power and clarity. Rule 3. Practice negative visualization. At first glance, negative visualization might seem counterintuitive. Why would anyone willingly think about losing someone or something they deeply cherish? Wouldn't that only add to your worries? Surprisingly, this Stoic practice, championed by Marcus Aurelius, is not about amplifying anxiety, but about fortifying your emotional resilience. It's a tool for detachment, not by numbing your feelings, but by preparing your mind for life's inevitable uncertainties and losses. The idea is simple, yet profoundly transformative. By imagining worst-case scenarios, losing a valued relationship, facing rejection, or enduring hardship, you begin to soften the emotional blow if or when those events come to pass. It's not about embracing pessimism or resigning yourself to misery. It's about training your mind to accept reality on its own terms. This practice helps you step away from clinging to an idealized version of life and move toward a mindset of clarity and strength. Marcus Aurelius offered timeless advice. Do not disturb yourself by imagining the entirety of your life's troubles at once. Negative visualization allows you to do the opposite, focusing on a singular possibility, not to dwell on it, but to prepare yourself. When you accept that life is unpredictable and loss is a natural part of existence, you reduce the shock and anguish that often accompany these moments. Instead, you learn to meet life with equanimity, appreciating what you have now while understanding it may not always remain. This practice is not about fear, it's about freedom. It frees you from the constant dread of loss and anchors you in the present, allowing you to approach life with both gratitude and courage. Negative visualization is a reminder that by confronting life's uncertainties, you can find strength in acceptance and peace in the face of change. Instead, when life presents challenges, meet them with composure and self-discipline. Negative visualization is a practice that fosters resilience by helping you prepare emotionally for what might come. Picture someone you are deeply connected to, a partner, a close friend, or a cherished family member. Now, imagine your life without them. Visualize their absence in your daily routine. How does it feel? Uneasy? Painful? That discomfort is the point. The Stoics believed that confronting the pain of loss in your mind weakens its ability to overwhelm you when it happens in reality. I remember experiencing this when my best friend was considering a move abroad. We had been inseparable for years, and the thought of them being so far away left me feeling anxious and unsettled. Initially, I wanted to push those feelings aside, pretending everything would remain as it was. But instead, I chose the Stoic approach. I confronted the possibility head-on. Each day, I visualized what life might look like without them. I pictured myself navigating my routines, spending time with other friends, and finding joy in new experiences. It wasn't easy, but it gave me the emotional space to process the potential loss. By rehearsing the pain in my mind, I found that the fear and sadness began to lessen. When the move eventually happened, I was more prepared, more grounded, and better equipped to embrace the change with gratitude for the time we had shared. Negative visualization isn't about inviting suffering. It's about building strength. By facing the pain of loss in your imagination, you teach yourself that life goes on, that you are capable of adapting, and that even in the absence of what you hold dear, there is room for growth, meaning, and joy. When they finally moved, I wasn't consumed by grief or crushed by loneliness. Of course, the loss still hurt, but I had already prepared myself mentally, and that made all the difference. Negative visualization had given me the strength to face the inevitable with acceptance rather than despair. A key aspect of this practice is recognizing that loss is an intrinsic part of life. Everything we treasure, whether it's people, possessions, or circumstances, will eventually change or fade, whether through separation, transformation, or death. At first, this realization may feel heavy, even bleak, but in truth, it's profoundly liberating. When you let go of the expectation that things will last forever, you also release the entitlement that can make loss so devastating. The fear of losing what you cherish begins to dissipate, replaced by a deeper appreciation for the present moment. Consider relationships. Many of us enter them with an unspoken belief that they will last indefinitely, that the connection is permanent. Rarely do we confront the possibility of an end, and yet impermanence is the only certainty. Instead of clinging to the illusion of forever, Stoicism teaches us to value what we have while we have it, accepting that change is the natural course of life. This shift in perspective is incredibly freeing. I remember being in a relationship where I was constantly anxious about the possibility of it ending. That fear weighed on me daily, clouding the joy I could have been experiencing in the moment. It wasn't until I adopted a Stoic mindset that I began to let go of that fear. By accepting the uncertainty of the relationship's future, I was able to fully appreciate it in the present. I stopped trying to control what was uncontrollable, and instead focused on nurturing the connection while it lasted. In doing so, I discovered a surprising sense of peace. The worry that had once consumed me was replaced with gratitude, a gratitude for the time, the memories, and the growth that the relationship brought into my life. And when it eventually ended, I was prepared to move forward, carrying those lessons with me instead of being paralyzed by the loss. The fear of losing that person consumed me, looming over every moment we shared. It was suffocating, but when I began practicing negative visualization, everything started to shift. I stopped trying to control the outcome. stopped clinging to the hope that I could prevent the inevitable. Instead, I allowed myself to imagine life after the relationship, an exercise that was undeniably painful but also profoundly grounding. It forced me to cherish the present more deeply, and when the relationship finally ended, I was more prepared than I had ever expected. The true gift of negative visualization is the inner strength it fosters. By consistently confronting the worst possible outcomes in your mind, you build a kind of emotional armor, resilience that shields you from life's inevitable unpredictability. It's not that the challenges hurt any less, it's that you've already walked through the fire in your mind and discovered that you can survive. This is the essence of emotional detachment, not a cold withdrawal from life, but a liberation from the false belief that happiness depends on things remaining constant. It's the realization that even as life shifts, even as people leave and circumstances change, your stability remains rooted within you. Negative visualization doesn't remove life's ups and downs. Instead, it gives you the power to rise above them, knowing that no matter what happens, you have the strength to endure and thrive. Rule 4. Control your emotions through logical reasoning. Many people believe their emotions are in control, driving their actions and dictating their lives. It feels natural to experience pain, sadness, or anger when deeply connected to someone. Yet the truth is, emotions are not fixed forces that define us. They arise from our thoughts, beliefs, and the ways we interpret our experiences. Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics firmly understood this. Emotions are not uncontrollable waves. They are shaped by the lens through which we view the world. Marcus Aurelius reminds us of a profound truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It's a call to take responsibility for your thoughts, for they are the roots from which emotions grow. The path to emotional detachment begins with mastering this principle, recognizing that your mind can guide your emotional responses. Consider a breakup. It's common to feel crushed, endlessly replaying conversations, dissecting every moment, and questioning why it happened or how they moved on so effortlessly. This emotional storm stems not just from the event itself, but from how you perceive it. Thoughts like, "I wasn't enough," or "they never truly cared," amplify the pain. But when you shift your perspective, the emotional impact shifts too. What if instead you reasoned, "This relationship wasn't meant to continue. It taught me valuable lessons, and now I have the opportunity to grow." By reframing the situation logically, you diffuse the emotional turmoil. It's not about suppressing your feelings, but about guiding them with understanding and rational thought. This practice doesn't come easily. It requires mindfulness and patience. But as you learn to interpret situations with clarity rather than assumption, you'll find that emotions no longer overwhelm you. You'll feel less controlled by anger, sadness, or regret, and more empowered to choose calm, understanding, and acceptance. Emotional detachment isn't about ignoring your feelings. It's about transforming them into tools of strength and growth through the power of logical reasoning. The Stoic approach encourages us to shift our perspective. Instead of letting emotions dictate your response, focus on the facts. Ask yourself, how else can I interpret this situation? By deliberately choosing thoughts that ease your emotional burden rather than intensifying it, you regain control over your inner state. Take a moment to reflect on how you typically react when faced with challenging situations. A disagreement with someone close, feeling neglected, or facing disappointment. what's your instinctive response? Often, we immediately assign meaning to the event, interpreting it in a way that heightens our emotional distress. But, as the Stoics remind us, it's not the event itself that causes our pain. It's the story we tell ourselves about it. Marcus Aurelius profoundly observed that the soul is colored by its thoughts, meaning our feelings are a direct result of our inner dialogue. Consider this scenario. You send a heartfelt message to someone important in your life, a friend, partner, or family member. Hours go by with no reply, and suddenly your mind begins to spiral. Thoughts like, "They're ignoring me," or "I must have upset them," start to cloud your judgment, triggering frustration, sadness, or even anger. But what if you paused and reassessed? Instead of jumping to conclusions, you might think, "They're probably busy," or "They'll reply when they have time." This simple shift in perspective can prevent a flood of unnecessary emotional pain. It's a reminder that you have the power to frame situations in ways that either harm or heal your state of mind. By practicing this change in perspective, you learn to approach life with greater composure and clarity. It's not about denying your feelings, but about understanding that you can guide them. As you master this mindset, you'll find yourself less swayed by external events and more anchored in the inner strength that comes from choosing your thoughts wisely. Did I say something wrong? Are they upset with me? Do they not care? These questions echo in my mind, growing louder as the hours pass. What begins as a faint worry starts to morph into frustration, and eventually, it can escalate to anxiety or even anger. But what's really happening here? Is it their delayed response that's truly causing this emotional storm? Or is it the meaning I've attached to their silence? The Stoic approach teaches us to confront these instinctive emotional reactions with logical reasoning. What are the actual facts? The only truth in this situation is that they haven't replied. Everything else, the assumptions, the fears, the overthinking, is a product of my imagination. Instead of allowing these emotions to spiral out of control, I pause. I remind myself that my feelings of anxiety or rejection are not rooted in reality, but in the narrative I've created in my mind. Marcus Aurelius wisely advised us to challenge our thoughts and not accept them at face value. He understood that much of our emotional distress comes not from the events themselves, but from how we interpret them. I experienced this firsthand with a close friend during a meaningful conversation. Midway through, they suddenly stopped responding. At first, I didn't give it much thought, but as more time passed, my mind began to wander. Did I offend them? Are they upset with what I said? The questions fed into each other, and soon I was caught in a whirlwind of self-doubt and unease. But then I stopped myself. I asked, what do I actually know? The truth was simple. They hadn't replied. That was all. When I reframed my perspective, I realized there were countless reasons for their silence, none of which had anything to do with me. Maybe they were busy, distracted, or simply needed time to process. By questioning my assumptions and focusing on the facts, I diffused the emotional intensity and found clarity. This practice of pausing, reflecting, and reasoning is at the heart of emotional detachment. It doesn't mean suppressing your feelings, but rather understanding their source and choosing to respond with wisdom instead of impulsivity. As the hours passed, a growing unease began to creep in. I couldn't shake the thought that my friend might be upset with me, or that I had said something wrong. By the end of the night, my imagination had run wild, convincing me that our friendship was crumbling. My emotions were in turmoil, worry, guilt, frustration, all swirling together. But then I paused and reflected on the situation, and a powerful realization struck me. Nothing had actually happened. My friend wasn't upset or distant, they were simply busy. The next day, when I reached out calmly, they responded with warmth and ease, completely unaware of the emotional storm I had weathered. In that moment, I remembered the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. Focus on what you can control, your thoughts and actions, not the outcomes or others' feelings. The spiral of worry and self-doubt I had experienced stemmed entirely from my own interpretations, not reality. By shifting my focus and questioning my assumptions, I was able to let go of the unnecessary emotional chaos and approach the situation with clarity and composure. If you've made it this far, take a moment to reflect on your own relationships. Have you ever caught yourself overthinking or creating emotional turbulence from assumptions? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your insights might just help someone else recognize similar patterns and take steps toward building healthier, more balanced connections. Rule 5. Consider the larger context. When you're caught in the throes of an emotional relationship or navigating a difficult situation, it's easy to become consumed by the intensity of the moment. Your thoughts spiral around the pain, the conflict, or the uncertainty, making it hard to see beyond what's right in front of you. Stoic philosophy, and the teachings of Marcus Aurelius in particular, remind us to step back and take in the broader view of life. Aurelius often reflected on how our struggles, fears, and desires are but fleeting moments in the vast timeline of existence. By embracing this expansive perspective, you create the emotional distance needed to see things more clearly. Ask yourself, will this pain or challenge matter in 5 years? Does this person truly define who I am or dictate my entire identity? These questions invite you to reframe your distress within the context of life's larger picture, revealing that much of what feels overwhelming is tied to temporary situations. Stoicism teaches that no single person or event should hold the power to shape your emotional well-being entirely. When you become overly attached to someone, it's easy to make them the center of your world, binding your happiness and self-worth to their presence or approval. But life is far too vast, and you are far too multifaceted to be defined by one relationship or circumstance. Consider the universe's scale, the countless people, stories, and possibilities that extend far beyond this moment. Reflect on the seasons of your own life and how previous struggles eventually faded, leaving behind lessons and growth. By shifting your focus to the grander context, you free yourself from being trapped in the immediacy of emotional pain. Detaching in this way doesn't mean you devalue your experiences or relationships. It means you give yourself the gift of perspective, allowing you to navigate life's ups and downs with balance and resilience. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed, take a moment to zoom out. Remember that your life is a vast canvas, and no single event or relationship can define its entirety. Stepping back to view the broader perspective reminds us that life is always in motion. Relationships, no matter how intense or meaningful, are just one chapter in the expansive story of your life. You are a complete individual with your own unique path, shaped by countless experiences beyond any single relationship. In the midst of a breakup or emotional hardship, it's natural to lose sight of this. The pain feels all-encompassing, as if the world has narrowed to that singular loss. But pausing to reflect on the larger context can reveal an important truth. You've faced emotional struggles before, and you've overcome them. Life continued, and so did you. Think back to past relationships or moments when you felt as though everything was falling apart. At the time, those wounds felt insurmountable, but eventually they healed. Not only did you survive, but you emerged stronger and wiser. This is the rhythm of life, an ongoing process of growth, loss, and renewal. I remember a breakup that, at the time, felt like the end of my world. For weeks, I was consumed by memories, replaying moments and convincing myself that the future had lost its light. But slowly, I began to step back and see the bigger picture. This person, while significant, was not the defining moment of my existence. They were a meaningful part of my journey, but they did not determine my entire narrative. With time and reflection, I came to understand that every experience, even the painful ones, plays a role in shaping who we are. By embracing the broader perspective, I found peace and strength. It's a reminder that while the pain may feel permanent, it's just a part of life's ever-evolving journey, not its entirety. I came to understand that the relationship was just one chapter in the vast narrative of my life. This realization allowed me to begin emotionally distancing myself, not out of bitterness or indifference, but from a place of acceptance. The Stoics, particularly Marcus Aurelius, remind us of life's fleeting nature. Relationships, emotions, and circumstances all pass with time. Nothing is permanent, and what truly matters is how we respond to these inevitable changes. By stepping back and considering the larger context, you cultivate a sense of inner calm. You see that life continues to unfold, regardless of the temporary attachments you hold dear. This broader perspective enables emotional detachment, not by shutting down your feelings, but by understanding that clinging too tightly to transient aspects of life only amplifies your suffering. True emotional detachment isn't a rejection of care or connection. It's the realization that no single individual, relationship, or moment of pain defines your entire existence. Life is far greater, far more expansive than any single experience. By embracing this perspective, you free yourself from the weight of excessive attachment, allowing room for growth, healing, and the discovery of new possibilities. Viewing your life as an intricate tapestry of experiences helps you break free from the tunnel vision that emotional attachment often creates. Emotional detachment doesn't require you to suppress your feelings or distance yourself from others. Instead, it's about cultivating resilience and consciously managing your reactions to life's inevitable changes. The Stoic approach doesn't promise an instant solution, but offers a pathway to lasting inner peace. By embracing the transient nature of life, practicing logical reasoning to regulate your emotions, and consistently stepping back to see the bigger picture, you'll come to understand that emotional detachment is not about rejection. It's about liberation. When you notice yourself clinging too tightly to someone or something, pause and ask yourself, am I in control of my emotions, or are they controlling me? This self-awareness is the key to unlocking true emotional freedom. It's available to anyone willing to loosen their grip, accept the ebb and flow of life, and find strength in letting go. By doing so, you don't lose connection. You gain clarity, balance, and the ability to live fully no matter what comes your way.